Hi there. This evening, I'm going to build a recipe suggestion app using ChatGPT o1-preview. And I'm going to use it for part of the solution, but I'm going to do some of my own coding and then also probably leverage a different LLM model at some point rather than o1 for the entire project, just because there's so many prompts that I can hit that preview with. But that's okay because I think that we're going to get most of the app out of maybe one or two prompts. So let's see how it goes. So the prompt I put together is create a recipe suggestion app that has AI suggestions. A web app where users input a few ingredients and the AI suggests full recipes or combinations of food. AI can also suggest cooking techniques or meal prep hacks. I am going to ask it to build the app in Next.js using PageRouter. These are just some requirements that I want to tell it up front so that it doesn't do something like use a different language that I don't want or things like that. I'm going to go with an Express.js API for the backend interface. Also, I want to use Bootstrap as the UI framework, but there's all kinds of options. I just like Bootstrap myself. And then for the interface to the AI, I'm going to use OpenAI's API. I know that's a lot of I-sounding words, but essentially that's what we're going to use. And then if a database is required, I would like to use MongoDB. Hopefully that generates something good. We'll take a look, but I'm going to let her rip from here. All right, so the prompt's thinking right now. So that's an interesting thing about this is that this model is more sophisticated. It's able to reason, and it looks like it's already starting to generate some content. So it's got tells me, an introduction. It's like, this is exciting. And then it gives us an overview of the project. I think it's pretty good at software engineering here. So it is outlining the requirements of the project. Next.js using PageRouter with Bootstrap. Backend, Express.js API. AI integration to OpenAI API. Database, MongoDB. All right, so first it's asking me to create my app. So let's do that. I created a folder called Recipe Finder, and I'm going to just go ahead and call this Recipe Finder app. So Recipe Finder app. Okay, so this is a simple process where we create a Next app. Next.js is a framework. It's rendered on the server side, but it is React, which is really great. So we're not going to use TypeScript. We are going to use ESLint. We're not going to use Tailwinds. We are not going to use Source. And we are not going to use App Router. Earlier I had said I wanted to use File Router. So here's one difference. App Router is actually really great. I'm just kind of particular. Also, more sample code on the internet seems to be for File Router, and so that's one I always go with. The last question is, do you want to change the default import alias? Don't worry, you can actually change this later. I don't think we need it. So there you go. Now we are creating our app. Now let's hop over to ChatGPT while we wait and see what it says. Okay, so next it says change directory to the app directory and then install Bootstrap. So let's copy that and hop back into the command line. It's actually not done yet. Okay, it is completed setting up the app. I'm gonna just check the directory really quick. Go into Recipe Finder app. Now I'm in the directory where everything was installed. I can see the gitignore file already there. A lot of times, some stuff you actually have to put that stuff in yourself, but what's great about Create Next App is it sets all that stuff up for you, including a README file and everything. So it looks like everything's there. There's a Pages folder, a Public folder, a Styles folder, everything that's basic with this. So then we're going to install Bootstrap. Bootstrap is a UI framework, and I just like it. It looks like it added the packages. That was really fast. Okay. Technically, we can just type npm run dev right now, and recipe finder will be running. So let's go look at it in the browser. It's probably pretty cheesy, or it's probably like a default page. So let's see what comes up. We say Next.js, get started. So we have our web server running and we have an app. So now we just need to go to the next step. The next step is actually importing the Bootstrap CSS, which I missed. So I'm going to grab this and go into app.js. So I'm going to go grab the code. And you know, I'm going to change my folder here. So I go to recipe finder app, bring that into the IDE. And then I want to go to pages, app.js. And right after bringing in my global CSS file, I'm going to also bring in the bootstrap min.css file. What that does is gives us the styles for Bootstrap, which is mostly what we need for our UI framework. Okay, so now the response from ChatGPT also tells me it'll like set up the page router, which is already set up. There's an index.js file, and there's a pages directory. So we have a place to put our files. And then it talks about designing the UI, and then it just jumps right into making the API without really telling us very much about the front end. So before I jump through the rest of these instructions, which by the way just covers how to connect the front end to the back end, build an API call to get the recipes, and set up the database if needed. And actually there's some database stuff in here, environment setup, and then the ability to run it. So before I do that, let's just ask it a quick question. Let's give it a quick ask and just say, can you please generate a boilerplate index.js for the recipe finder? Question mark. Please have a nav bar. Okay, we're going to have a nav bar and a main content pane for the page. Add a ingredients form for adding ingredients, and a column with suggested recipes I'm going to say 4 suggested recipes. Then I'm also going to say for now use mock content, right? Let's see if that gives me what I need. So we got a nav bar. Oh, I was going to also say ensure that the page is responsive for small screens. I just always do this. All right, so as ingredients, column for suggested recipes, use fake data, okay? All right, first I'm just gonna rip this index.js file. It's basically a boilerplate. It's kind of a quick and dirty way to get the basic app started, right? Like now we have some very simple stuff in here, and I'm just gonna grab it and pop it into my code. Then we can get more creative with it once we've got an API. Well, let's go see what it looks like. All right, actually right out of the box, it took 2 prompts to get a nav bar with no links in it, by the way, because there's probably no other pages. The ability to add ingredients, so we'll say spaghetti noodles, or we'll say like ramen. Find recipes. It's not the best. Not the best UI yet, honestly. It doesn't actually do anything clearly, but I will want it to add multiple ingredients over time to like stack it, so somebody could go in and say, well, I have this and I have that and I have that and I have this put them all in there. They could delete them or remove them from the UI, and then it'll give the suggested recipes on the right. And then obviously the suggested recipes can't just be a list of words. Like, we're gonna actually want to get the recipes, right? So, all right. We can't do that until we have an API. So let's get started. Obviously, we're going to want to go and build something in the code. Or we're going to build something in the same folder. So dev cd recipe finders dir. Okay, so I'm going to go mk dir. I'm going to make a directory called recipe finder API, right? So now we're making an API. Oops. Okay, we good? All right. And then I'm going to go into the API folder, and then I'm going to type npm init. I'm not using the LLM here just because I've done this like 5 million times. I'm going to set it to an MIT license. I'm going to set my, it's too late. I'll change that later. You could change this stuff later, by the way. Is this okay? Yes. All right. So now I have an API folder, and I can go into my IDE. I'll spin up a new folder or a new window here. This is the way I usually do it. I don't like mono repos. I like to have separate code repos that I use a lot of times different IDE windows for developing my stuff. I don't know if that's like different than other people. I guess I just don't really think about it that much. Okay. All right. So we have an empty folder with the package.json file. We know it's going to be app.js or index.js. I'm going to ask it to be app.js if it tells me anything else. All right, ChatGPT. Let's head back up to where it says to build the API. And it says npm init, which we already did, and then it has all these things to install. So let's go install stuff. We're going to install Express, which makes sense, cores for cross-origin resource sharing, body parser, so we can take a post request and take the data out of a post request, and then .env, so we can make an env file, a .env file in our project. Okay, so now we've got that, and actually it gave us like a basic API to get started. Oops, cancel. So actually we already have an app running. But let's do the rest of these steps. So it says integrate OpenAI API. So let's do that too while I'm in here. npm install OpenAI, right? We're gonna just take node package manager, install OpenAI. Okay. Then this is just putting everything right inside of one file. So I'm gonna do it like that. Put that code up there. I'm gonna have to make a .env file, which I won't. Oops, I won't share that with you on screen, I guess. .env. Wonder why it did that. Okay, and we'll add OpenAI. We're going to grab this value because that's what's going to be in there, and then we're going to put your key here. That's funny, it has like fake keys in it. Copilot Studio or Copilot for GitHub just popped in like your API key, or it made like a fake API key. It's kind of weird. Okay, so we already have that code in there, and now it's basically saying create an endpoint for get recipe, and it has an old school model in here from like GPT-3, Text DaVinci 03. That's pretty strange in my opinion. Like the o1 model should be smart enough to know we're like on GPT 4.0 at least, right? I don't know why it's not doing that. the way I would expect, but that's okay. That probably means that we're gonna have to like kind of hack the code or something, because my guess is that OpenAPI logic in here is like the old way of doing it, but it's not that hard to fix. I've ran into this before. Okay, so then we're going to connect our front end to our back. So what we did is we created that model. What I'm going to do here is change this to GPT-4.0-mini, which is like the cheapest model. And I don't know that max tokens is right. I think that we might want to play with this prompt. So I'm already kind of nerding out here, but here's the prompt that OpenAI's o1-preview model gave me for this app, and I'm like actually not even very impressed by this prompt. Let me see if we can get it to do a better prompt. I'm gonna say I want to improve the prompt so that it returns a list of 10 suggested recipes with the title, the ingredients, the instructions, step by step, I'm gonna say. So yeah, you can prompt it to do things specifically or get more specific, then it will give you a better answer. I want to improve the prompt so it returns a list of 10 suggested recipes with the title, the ingredients, the instructions, and if possible, no, I'm not going to do that yet. I was going to say I can have it generate a prompt for Dolly and then auto-generate like a picture of the food. But I feel like that's kind of weird because it's like not actually the real food. What if it comes out looking funny? Okay, so the instructions step by step, and return the data in a specific JSON format every time. All right. So I want to improve the prompt. Let's just see what it says. Okay. We're getting close to being able to run the API. In fact, we could just do that now, probably. But here's the modified prompt. And actually, it changed the entire API call for me, too. And rewrote the whole app. So it expanded the tokens. It kept text DaVinci 03 for some weird reason. And it added these temperature and N values, which help it determine like how accurate, or kind of, it helps fine tune the result a little bit. And no stop, there's no like stop demarcation in the text. That's what that says. And then it seems to have like a lot better of a prompt. It says, you are a helpful assistant that provides blah, blah, blah. Which I noticed this is using the old way of calling API by the OpenAI, by the way. But it says, given the following ingredients, generate a list of 10 recipes, title, ingredients as a list, instructions as a list of steps, return the data in the following JSON format, ingredients, blah, blah, blah. See, so now it actually generated the appropriate JSON in the prompt itself, so that's a lot better. And to be honest, I mean, since this code is still so virgin, I'm just gonna replace it. But then I will go in and change this to be GPT 4. Hey, what happened to this? Okay, dash 4 dot o mini. It's actually 4.0 dash mini, like that. I might be wrong. We'll find out. I think this is going to throw an error, but let's try it. node app is the command line command, and it says configuration is not a constructor. So yep, that means, so here's where AI starts to come in handy as a developer. Is you're like, you know, those days when you're looking on Stack Overflow for like 3 years to try to find an answer, just go, I am getting this error. It's like the way I do it all the time now. Whenever I get a bug or error, I just ask an LLM. It could be as simple as Copilot, if your company lets you use Copilot or something, you know, along those lines. To be honest, I'm like really giving like a simple question to ChatGPT o1-preview, which is supposed to be some really sophisticated model. Honestly, it's probably writing like a PhD thesis right now about this error. So you don't need something that amazing, but it says when you import using this, then the configuration may not be correctly imported to the ESM nature of OpenAI. Yeah, that's how it does it. All right. So what we want to do is just change the way we interface with OpenAI up here at the top. So now what I want to do is actually change AI models at OpenAI away from the o1-preview and move over to 4.0 mini. I think it might be a little bit better. I think it's because the newer model might not be able to connect to the internet or something, but it's given me some weird answers, kind of outdated code. So I asked it to give me the current version of OpenAI's API. And let me just kind of scan through this code it gave me here, because it's a little better. Yeah, it'll work. Okay, I'm gonna just take it and go into my API. And let's take a look at any specific JSON structure. It made the prompt, messed up the prompt. So what we can do now is ask it well, can you please make the prompt adhere to the previous structure of JSON? So let's make the prompt a little bit better. Okay. All right, so that looks like it's just the function, so I will take that function. All right. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go get my OpenAI key, and I will be right back. We can actually test this app, I think. So now what I want to do is, now that I've got my OpenAI key added to the env file, I also want to add a git ignore really quick. And I'm going to tell it */node modules. I think this is the right pattern. It might be more like this. We'll see. And, whoops. Oh, star. GitHub Copilot's funny. Okay, so then I'm going to say star.env. And then also, I'm going to initialize a repo. and call it initial commit API commit or something like that. All right, so we could test it in Postman. All right, so what are we going to do here? We're going to go to the command line, Node app, import Express from Express. Cannot use import statement outside a module. Something's wrong here. So this is like where it becomes evident that software engineers are not going anywhere anytime soon. Okay, so I finally got this API call working, and I had to make some tweaks. So one thing that I changed here was I made the model be GPT 4.0 mini. That helps keep my costs down for this thing because I'm not wanting to spend a fortune, and that's the most affordable model. And then I also set the response format. This is kind of a new feature with the API. You can set the response format to type JSON object like this, and it will force the model to respond back with only JSON, which we can see here that I called suggest recipes, and I got an object with a recipes object inside of it, and then an array, and then each recipe, and we'll just want to, I guess, make sure that there's 5. So there's chicken and broccoli stir fry. Well, chicken, rice, and broccoli, that kind of makes sense, right? Then there's creamy chicken and broccoli rice casserole. Chicken, rice, and broccoli skillet. Lemon garlic chicken with broccoli and rice. One pan chicken, broccoli and rice. Okay, that was 5. And it had an array of ingredients and an array of instructions. So that looks pretty good. So next thing will be to connect the UI to the API to generate the suggested list of recipes. Okay, now we're going to refocus away from the API over to the UI. So as you recall, the application has been using Bootstrap, and there's two kind of components is the way I would look at them on the main screen. There's add ingredients and suggested recipes. So when you take a look at the code, you can see that it's all in one file called index, but it doesn't really take advantage of the fact that you can have components. So one thing I want to do before I even add anything to this is ask ChatGPT to help me make those into components. So I'm going to say, can you please break out the here, I'm going to grab this, the add ingredients and suggested recipes into their own next components, question mark, right? We're going to go ahead and throw the code in there because I don't know if this model remembers this code, so I'm just going to paste it. All right, so now it's going to tell me to create a folder under components, and then we'll create add ingredients. So we'll do that first. Go into the code. We're going to go to the app here. We're going to add a folder called components. And this should be out here. And then, what's it called? Add ingredients. Yep. New file. Add ingredients.js. And we'll just throw that in there. And suggested recipes.js. That's probably what else is in there. Suggested recipes. Copy code. Paste code. Then we probably have to make a change to the index. So we're gonna add these 2 lines of code, and then we're gonna reference those components here. One thing I could do is just copy and paste the code, but I don't think I'm going to do it. I'm going to instead go import not that, add ingredients from component, add ingredients, import, and I just want to It's weird how it does that. I wonder if I have my folder in the wrong spot. Okay. Well, we'll call it good. Alright, so then we're going to rip out this. And we're going to just add that. Right? So GitHub Copilot just did a lot of that work for me. And then we're going to do the same thing here with this. Oh, I can't tell. Okay. All right. So let's go check the page and see if it still loads. Looks good. All right. Now we can go to the next step. We're going to have index call the API when somebody hits the submit form. So when the find recipes form gets submitted, it will call the API and get the recipes from the ingredients. Also, I want to make the UI to where when you type in an ingredient, it will it will just like stack it into a list of ingredients. And then let's go into ChatGPT and say when the user hits the find recipes button, the app should call the API and pass a post request to it based on the previous implementation of the API. I guess we'll just say that. And get the list of suggested recipes based on ingredients. We'll start small here. Ingredients found in the input field. Okay. Let's see if that can do it just from that. Update the handle submit function. So what we're going to do is update the function to call this API, and it kind of looks like it does this in the main index. I'm just going to go ahead and copy the code here and see if that alters the app. All right, let's just test this out and say spaghetti noodles chicken Parmesan cheese. Okay. Failed to fetch. Hey, it did something. It just didn't give me an answer. And actually, look at that. It even had a UI component added in there that I didn't expect. Okay, so what we do is we can go look at the console. Failed to fetch, hydration error, connection refused. So the port is incorrect, and my guess is that we're also going to have to update the CORS header on the API next. So let's go look at the code here and see what's going on. So I think it's just because it's hard coded. For now, let's just leave it hard coded. Let's just set it to that and see what happens. Find recipes. Network tab. It's still fetching right now. We'll put this on the side. Looks like it failed. Oops, maybe we'll move it back down to the bottom. Let's see what happened. Well, it technically responded. So I'm not sure what happened. Why did it not hydrate? Failed to fetch. Okay, let's just clear that. Try again. Network. Let's see what happens. It's almost there. I don't see any. Oh, yep, it got recipes. But it didn't do anything with them. Wonder why. So why don't I copy the JSON, and what I'm going to do is say the recipes did not load in the page. Here is the JSON that came back. We'll pass the JSON and it'll suggest that we alter it. So it's saying that so it's really just the data structure, and in the handle submit function, it's doing some new stuff to parse that. It's like doing body JSON stringify data.recipes. Okay. So let's just go look. Set recipes. Data.recipes. Anything else? No, I don't think so. All right, try again. Let's take that out. Run it again. Nothing yet. So I don't think it worked, but maybe. Oh, objects are not valid as a React child. So, hey, it tried. Objects are not valid as a React child. So a lot of times what I do, this is like object with keys, title, tags, ingredients, instructions. If you want to render a collection of children, use an array instead. I don't know what to do here, but I'm going to just copy this error and pass it right to ChatGPT, which is something I do a lot. So objects are not valid as a React child. Typically is when you're trying to render an object directly in your JSX, which React does not allow. In your case, it seems you might be trying to render a complex object instead of the individual properties of that object. Well, isn't that actually kind of because we need to update this file? Okay, suggested recipes. All right. Now, let's just try again. Hamburger, cheese, elbow, macaroni. All right, let's see what happens. You gonna do anything? Come on. You got it. Hey, look, we actually have the suggested recipes. Cheesy hamburger macaroni, hamburger mac and cheese casserole, one pan cheesy hamburger pasta, cheesy hamburger macaroni skillet, barbecue hamburger mac and cheese. Wow, looks good. Each one has all of these ingredients in it, which is something to keep in mind for later. All right, well, that's a good step for that. We probably want to improve the UI now, but I'm going to take a break. So one thing that happened was my Camtasia crashed on my machine while I was recording, so I lost a little bit of code generation. So I'm going to go over it with you. So you can see some subtle changes here. Now when you enter an ingredient, you can add ingredients one at a time in this field. So I could add like cheese, right? And it would add it down here. And then you could also remove ingredients like rice from there. And then you could submit the request. And that's what I added. There's some weird UI stuff that still needs to be taken care of, in my opinion, here. But you can see here that actually got me an answer: cheesy broccoli and ribeye steak bake. Ribeye steak and cheesy broccoli. So yeah, looks good right now. But now what I want to do is I want to hop back into this ChatGPT window and see, right now I'm using ChatGPT 4o mini, and you can see there's no little paperclip icon right here. If I tried to paste an image into this, it wouldn't take the image because 4o mini doesn't really accept like multimodal inputs, just text. So I'm gonna switch models. One cool thing about ChatGPT is now at least you can switch the model like in the middle of a chat. So now I should be able to paste my image in there, which is something I just did down there. And I'm going to say, I would like to improve the UI of the page now. I noticed that the header is not looking good because the logo branding is far to the left. Also, the recipes extend the recipes, which are like the main content, only occupy half of the screen. Maybe we can improve the UI. Wow, that's not the best spelling. Sorry. Oh, even spell check can't figure that one out. Maybe we can improve. I still have to spell check it. Maybe we can improve the UI UX so that this looks a little cooler and better. Okay, we'll just call it that. So, see, you don't have to have this like magic prompt. Yeah, you just need to tell it what you want. But see, it's got the picture of the UI, and then it's just saying, let's center it, let's expand the recipe section, let's add a little styling and spacing. So layout code, this is the index.js page. It's still being generated here. It's a lot of code. Since this is a demo, I'm gonna go ahead and just, I call it in the video earlier, trust the LLM, but it already changed this 3042 port back, so it doesn't remember that, it doesn't even know that, but it did seem to make some cool changes here. Then CSS styles, this one, I'm gonna just throw these in the globals. It's called the globals folder file. So right in here, add these styles to the globals, and that's all that it implemented. So it centered the content, it centered the header, and then it has inner ingredients taking up less space, and then suggested recipes taking up more space. I guess that's okay. But I'm going to say, can you please add a little flair to the site? The colors are bland, and there are no icons. I'll just say that. It'll probably ask me to import favicon or something like that next, and also take it, yeah, font awesome. Okay, so we're going to install font awesome. We'll go into the command line here, and I got to kill the app. Then I'm going to run or install font awesome, the free version. Pretty easy. This process doesn't take very long. It's almost done actually, and then we will just rerun the application. Then we're going to update the app file to import this stuff up here at the top. We already have Bootstrap min, but all we need to do is import this file. So we're going to go to app, and we will add this there. And I'm going to move this down here. I think that makes sense. Okay, just a second. Okay, and then option 2, okay, that's a different option. Then we're going to update the layout code again for the font awesome. We're just going to go ahead and trust the LLM, but I remember I probably got to change this again. Maybe I should just tell it next time that my port for the API is there. But I could also tell it use .env and set up like a proper environment file. Okay, that's cuter. It has a little logo that says recipe finder. It's got some more color, but it still just doesn't have enough flair. Let's take a look at it with ingredients. We'll say macaroni, spam. I'm gonna put spam, chicken. Okay, so I already don't like that because all the ingredients thing looks weird. And then I hit submit recipe. I'm gonna need a spinner or loader thing, so we'll add that next too. But let's see if it even responds. Oh, there we go. And then also the recipes should just take up the rest of the content pane instead of just doing like what a third of the content pane. But spam and chicken macaroni bake kind of looks interesting, honestly. 1 pan spam, chicken, and macaroni skillet. Okay, so now I'm gonna pause to ask GPT to say the ingredients component buttons look funny. Yeah. Can we make this component span all 12 columns at the top? And then the recipes list can also span all columns. So it'll just be like a giant responsive app, like almost like a mobile look. Let's see if that helps. It's probably going to just change one file if it does this. The index.js file. One thing I would do in a normal situation would be take another screenshot of the page and then just pass that on. But one thing that happened was when I tried to do a screenshot while recording with Camtasia, it crashed Camtasia last time. So I don't want to take that chance and lose all my code. I forgot to tell it the new port for the API. I'm getting lazy at this point. 3042. 3042. Okay. That looks better. Here we go. So what I really want to do is find out why these Oh. Well, how about we just look more closely at this and just do it ourselves here. We're not rocket scientists, but my goodness. Okay. It's a little better now. So we could say chicken. Broccoli. Add ingredient. Submit recipe. It's still not got enough flair, in my opinion. It needs a show loading, like a loading icon for the API call. I bet that it also... Oh, there we go. All right. Looks good. Now what we want to do is add some other coolness. So I want to say I want to make the page look even cooler with more entertaining styles. Also, buttons should have icons on them. Also, the ingredients component, I want to make it so it can collapse and expand based on a and then I'm going to say it should automatically collapse when the API returns recipes. I want a show loading indicator for when the user submits the request for recipes. Also, please make the recipe cards little more snazzy. Okay. All right. And then one more detail here, which I'm going to say the API is on port 3042, by the way. Let's see if it picks up that detail. Okay. So we want to make it look nicer. We want to have a show loading icon. We want the ingredients component to expand and contract. And then we want to update the API port, and we want to have have the cards for the recipes look cooler. And I think it'll probably do that. So updated add ingredients component with collapsible functionality. Cool. So it's already getting started. Right in the code for us. Just churning out code. In the past, this kind of thing would probably take me like a day just to do one component. Depends, but depends on how motivated I was at the time and things like that. So then we're gonna update the recipe cards as well. We're gonna do that. Just kind of grab that and pop that in there, and then we're gonna update the CSS. Does it change any of the other stuff? I think I just need to add this CSS down here. And home component also needs to be updated. It does kind of looks like it didn't. It just like stopped generating. Can you please regenerate the home components? So there we go. Like, these AI models can be completely unpredictable sometimes. Like, it kind of looked like it was right and finished and everything, but it actually stopped generating only like about 10 or 11 lines in. And you can see here it's just like halfway through a JavaScript statement and it just stopped generating. But now we have it updated. And also, a cool thing to note is it did update the API port. So see how amazing that is? This stuff is really going to change software engineering. I know a lot of people are debating it. Oh wow, look at how much more snazzy it looks. Collapse, expand, chicken, eggs, hot sauce, submit recipe. See, now it has a show loading indicator. I might give it a little bit more feedback to say when showing loading, change the no recipes found. Oh wow, look at that. So now we've got all these cards that spin up spicy chicken omelet. And even look at that, when you hover the card, it animates a little bit. Wow, that was really good. I think we're like kind of almost done with this demo. So at this point, I've decided that this is as far as I'm going to take this. I think it's demonstrated what you can do with a simple Next.js application on the front end with a Express.js API, speaking to an OpenAI API to build a recipe finder using AI. Specifically, we also used ChatGPT. We used 3 different models. We used o1-preview, GPT-4o, and GPT-4o mini in this project. We generated actually all of the code with that model. It was not a quick, instantaneous application right out of the box, but it didn't take us very long to get to the point to where we have a pretty cool app that actually gives us some real recipes. The one thing I would probably check that we didn't actually check is, are these recipes any good? So maybe another time I'll do another video and actually try out one of these recipes. Thank you for watching this. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the subscribe button and definitely give it a thumbs up. Thanks a lot. Bye.